Hello everybody, welcome back, and today I am doing a crown tier list. I will be rating and ranking all of the royal crowns that are on the Wikipedia page. I'm doing this because, one, my own sanity, there's enough on that page that I had to get rid of just so I didn't lose my mind. And if I tried to go through every crown there ever was, I would never be done with this project. So basically, what is going to happen is that I'm going to rate it on a couple things. One, originality. How much does it copy other crowns, or how unique is it? Two, how interesting the history is. If the history behind it is like this crown was forged with the iron from a ship that sunk in a storm, that's cool. Third, just how cool it looks. Obviously, this is very subjective, so your ratings might be a lot different from mine, but so be it. If there's a crown that I missed that you really want me to do, post it in the comments and I'll respond to it as quickly as I can. So without further ado, let's get into it. This will also be in alphabetical order, so. First, Albania, the helmet of Skanderbeg. It was made in the 15th century. It has the legendary figure of Skanderbeg. It was for him. It is said to have references to Alexander the Great. I really think this just looks cool. It is very unique looking, obviously, with its more helmet design. Like, it's a full steel around with a head on the top of it, which is just very unique, and it's very cool looking. It works. Like, it's not too out there where it's very good looking. So, starting off, it gets an S tier. We're starting off really good, starting off really strong. S tier. It is currently held in the, oh boy, please don't get on top of me please don't get on me about these pronunciations. I'm going to do my best. It is in Kunthesaurus Museum in Vienna, Austria. Don't get on me about that, please. It's just, okay. Moving on. Belgium. So, there is no real Belgian crown. There is the Heraldic Crown of Belgium, where it's like what's on their coat of arms or what's on their standards. But because I can't rate it off of this, really, it is going to go into a special no pictures or evidence category. So we're not going to get into it, so it most likely wouldn't have been good anyways. Pretty basic European crown, whatever. Moving on. Bhutan, or Bhutan? I'm not sure. Bhutan, the Raven Crown. It was made for the first king of the independent state of Bhutan, so like the early 1900s. It is made of satin and silk. It is still worn by the kings of Bhutan. On originality, it is very interesting. It is a very tall crown. It's very unique. It has the raven head at the top, which gives it its name, the Raven Crown. It's made of silk, which is really different because most crowns are made of either gold or some other expensive metal, and usually bejeweled. So it has a very unique look. I think this isn't the best picture of it, but it was the best one I could find. It does have the issue where it does, with all the cloth, it does kind of blend together. But all that being said, I am going to still give it an A tier. The history is the main thing that brings it down. It's just not that deep. Moving on, next we have Bohemia, the crown of Saint Wenceslas. Anyways, the picture that I have here is a replica of it, which is why it looks like Jolly Rancher jewels. Not important. It was made in 1346 for the coronation of Charles IV, and then the then king of both Bohemia and the Holy Roman Empire. So this is it's a very basic crown, very basic European crown. Arches and the fronts with all the jewels. It's a very It's very basic looking. I'm going to be charitable since this is a replica, and I'm going to assume that the real crown will look better than this. With all that being said, it is going to still get a D tier. Not great. It's just not great. It's held in the Prague Castle in the Czech Republic at the moment. Moving on next, we have Bulgaria, the medieval crown of Bulgaria. The exact date is not known. Actually, a lot of information about it is not known. But I'm going to still rate it because I think I could add something to this. The top one is rather cool looking due to its rounded design, and it's more like a helmet, like I discussed in the Albania one. And it doesn't have all the arches. The bottom one is a more basic European crown, but it still doesn't have the arches. While doing this tier list, I've grown to hate arches. This is also a recreation. I forgot to add a note in here, so it's kind of hard to do. But I'm going to give it a D tier. It's just not great. They're fine, just not great. Moving on. Cambodia. Okay, so here's the thing. The Royal Crown of Cambodia, there's nothing known. But I am going to talk about something very similar to this later it'll actually be in part 2. So what I'm going to do, I have something written down here, but I'm not going to say it because I found out that there is an actual example of this type of crown later. So the rating I give to that other one will apply to this one as well. So I'll also mention that it's the same one. Other than that, so the Cambodia one is going to go in the no evidence category. Moving on. Croatia, the crown of Zvonimir. It was, again, there's no real evidence for it, but I did want to talk about it. It was given to King Dimitar Zvonimir in 1076. It was passed down until it was lost in the 1520s. Nobody really knows where it is, or even if it still exists. There is no evidence. There was no photo evidence of it because obviously cameras weren't invented. This is an artist recreation of it, but I like it more than I like most European crowns. First of all, it's a simple circle around, so that's good. Not as bejeweled as a lot of other ones are, so that gives it a bit of an edge. And no arches. Great. The little flap down bits, I mean, not great, but it gives it that air of uniqueness. With all that said, I'm going to give it a B tier. The only thing holding it back is not having a solid example of it, because obviously it just doesn't exist. Moving on. Okay, so Denmark has 2 crowns. The first crown I'm going to be talking about is the crown of Christian V. It was made in 1671 for Christian V, obviously. It was copied from the design for Louis XIV's crown, so, not looking great so far. And, okay, so let's talk about this. The history, not great. Pretty bog standard. Made for a king, whatever. Originality, as I said, it was copied from the design for Louis XIV's crown, so it's like, yikes. And, it has everything I hate. Arches, red velvet, and for some reason crosses are a big thing at the top of crowns. That just seems to be a big thing. So, Christian V of Denmark, you receive my first F tier. Good job. The second crown from Denmark is the crown of Christian IV. I don't know why it was ordered this way in the Wikipedia page, but it was. So, the second crown, the Christian IV, this one was made in 1596 for Christian IV's coronation. The history is rather bog standard, just like the last one, so nothing special, but it does look good. No arches, which is always great. No red velvet center. That little red velvet you can see in there is for the stand, not for the crown itself. It is very bejeweled, so kind of a little over the top, but I'm going to give it a C tier. Very middle of the road, not offensive crown. Both of these crowns are held in the Rosenborg Castle in Copenhagen, Denmark. Egypt. Egypt is another one of those heraldic crowns. It has no real examples, so obviously it's going to go in the no evidence category or tier. Moving on. Finland. The Crown of Finland, made in 1918 for the first king of Finland, and like one of the only ones. The history is rather shallow since it's not that old and didn't really stand up for that long. The crown itself is not really that bad. It's kind of like a cross between a helmet design and the regular crown design, but the line at the top does give it that little extra pizzazz. This picture right here is also a replica. It got jumbled up somewhere. I don't know where it went, but I'm gonna give it a C tier. If I think I didn't say that, but I'm gonna give it a C tier. Middle of the road. I do like the line at the top, but it doesn't save it. Moving on. Okay, so we are in France. Now, the list of French crowns is very long, and most of them either were destroyed or don't have much information around them, so I picked 3. First, the crown of Louis XV. I'm going to do the crown of Louis XV and the crown of Charlemagne. So let's get into it. The crown of Louis XV was made in 1722. It's really not that great. It was made for him. It's not that great looking. It's just a really bog standard crown. Arches. It isn't red velvet, but I would assume it was at the time. Really bejeweled. Really bad. I gotta give it an F tier. Not great. It is currently held in the Louvre in Paris, France. Moving on. The crown of Charlemagne. I could not find an actual representation of it, but here it is. It was made in 1237. It was made for the coronation of... It was made for Charlemagne. And it was then... It was destroyed in 1793. It really didn't have... It was made for Charlemagne, but like I can't include the history of the people as part of it, so... It is not a terrible looking crown. I don't know what that symbol's called, but that kind of like... The top one on top of the crown. It's not that bad looking. It's not that bad. It's not bad. I'm gonna give it a B tier, just out of some good stuff. I would like a recreation of it, like a replica, but sometimes you don't get what you ask for. Moving on, Georgia, the crown of Heralcious II. I cannot find what year this was made in, but it was... The only evidence I could find was that it was on this medallion. So, not looking too great. It doesn't look too terrible. It's just a really bog standard crown. So, and it's kind of hard to know. The only thing saving it is the history, because it was made for a pretty famous Georgian guy. It was lost in 1795, so we don't really know how it would have looked, so it's going to get a D tier. The only thing saving it from an F is that I just don't think it needs to be put in the same category as Louis XV, honestly. Alright, Germany has quite a few crowns, so let's get through this. The crown of Baden was made for Duke Karl II, but it was finished after his death in 1811. Obviously, for its history, it does kind of get a few extra points because the dude who was for died before it was finished. But let's talk about its originality. Yikes. Arches, red velvet, bejeweled. Not looking hot. Second, it's not a really good looking crown. It's just really standard looking. Not great. So I'm going to give it a D tier. It is currently held in the Museum of Baden in Germany. The royal crown of Bavaria was made after Bavaria was made a kingdom as a result of the Napoleonic Wars. It was based off the crown of Louis XV, and it was given to Maximilian I. So the history here is pretty good. I mean, made for a kingdom that was just created and then given to its first king, given to its first ruler. Great. Originality, not great, based off one of the Louis crowns, Louis XV, which I've already talked about in the past. But it's obviously made some changes. Got rid of the red velvet. Thank you. The arches are still there, but I'm going to give this a C tier because the history really yanks this one out of the water. It is currently sitting in the Munich residence in Munich, Germany. Crown of Württemberg. Crown of Württemberg was made in 1806. So like the last one, the history does a lot of heavy lifting here. It was made as the result of a Napoleonic war country getting brought into existence, but so basically just like the last one, kind of apply those rules here. It doesn't really have that great of looks. The it's not red velvet, it's orange, and it's really bad, guys. I don't know what to say. It gets a D tier. Moving on. The crown of Frederick I of Prussia. It was made in 1701 and was used for both his and his son's coronation. History is rather here and there. I mean, made for a king, passed on to a son, la-di-da-di-da. He didn't wear it often because he was a very frugal man, though, which is very interesting, but it is a very copy and paste crown. I mean, look at it, red velvet, arches. The only thing kind of like setting it apart is that it doesn't have all the jewels. It's very, I mean, I guess since the king was very frugal, Frederick I was a very frugal man, so he didn't want a bunch of jewels on there, so yeah, props to him on that. It's going to get a C, just middle of the road. It is held in the Charlottenburg Palace in Berlin, Germany. The last crown of Germany is the crown of Wilhelm II. It was made for Wilhelm II in 1888, when he was, getting the German Empire rootin' and a tootin'. It's really similar to a lot of European crowns. It does differ in the fact that the red velvet goes all the way up to the crowns, the arches, instead of the arches being kind of separate, but still not great. I'm going to give it a C tier. It's not an ugly crown, which is very good, but I'm going to give it a C tier. It's in the Hohenzollern Castle in Germany. Again, pronunciations, I apologize. Moving on, Greece. So the crown of Greece, or at least a specific one that was made for King Otto, the first in his brief time on the throne, the history behind it is rather bland, and I know Greece has a lot of interesting things, so I decided to do the laurel from ancient times. Obviously, laurels were made all over the place in Greece, a lot of the times before Christ and during the Olympics. It's very interesting because it's very unique. It's made of leaves, and it's just very interesting. It's unique. Its history does a lot of the heavy lifting. I'm gonna give this an A tier, and obviously there's none less lasting because the leaves decay and rot. So I don't know what you expect from that. The next, Hungary. The Holy Crown of Hungary was made around the 1070s. It was first given to the Byzantine Emperor, I apologize, not to the Empire, but it was given to the Byzantine Emperor, and then it was passed down it was held there for a while. You can even see some of the drawings here are Byzantium designs. You see this a lot in their palaces. So let's talk about this one. First, originality. There are no arches. I wouldn't consider those arches. Those are more slopes. And I've never seen those kind of dangly bits before in this tier list. So with all of that said, I'm going to give it an A tier. It's very good looking. It's got a lot of unique capability, a lot of unique stuff, and it does have an interesting history. So it is currently held in the Hungarian Parliament building in Hungary, of course. Iran. So the Pahlavi Crown was commissioned when the Pahlavi came to power in 1925. It has historical references to the Sassanid Empire, and first, it has a very rich history since it goes back to a really old Persian empire, and second, it is a very unique looking crown, especially for this modern age, with all the feathers at the top and the kind of like wings going off the side. And it's a very good looking crown. It does have that problem where it's like very, very bedazzled, but that doesn't take away from it. So I'm going to give it an S tier. My second S tier so far. It is currently held in the Treasury of National Jewels in Iran. Iraq, obviously there's nothing here. It's going in the no evidence category. Moving on. Italy. Italy has 2 crowns, but I am only going to talk about the Iron Crown of Lombardy. So it was made in the early Middle Ages, sometime around there, and it is one of the, and fun fact, it is like one of the oldest insignias of Christendom. So the design, it is a very simple band all the way around. It has no you can even see the little bar that goes around it. It's very simple. It is still gold and bedazzled, obviously, but it doesn't have the very intricate designs of a regular crown, which I do like. It's very unique, obviously, since it doesn't have all the arches and the red velvets and all that type of stuff. And yeah, I really like it. I'm going to give it an A tier. It's currently held in the Cathedral of Monza in Italy. India. So this, I'm going to make a disclaimer here. This was made during the reign of the British Raj, not Indian rulers before that. So just saying. It was created for George V in 1911. It is very European looking because obviously it's British made, so it has the arches and the red velvet and the jewels and very similar to the crowns of the UK. Not very good looking, very bland, D tier. Currently held in the Tower of London because, of course, the United Kingdom can't give that back. Japan. The crown of... Okay. I can usually stumble my way through most European-sounding names, but anywhere past that, I struggle. So, Ryukyu. It was made for the Kingdom of Ryukyu. That was a tributary of both China and Japan. And it was lost in 1945, during the World War II, obviously. It is very unique looking, obviously, with that more rounded headdress and with the pin going through it with all the beads. It has a very interesting look, and it's very unique, and it's very good looking. Obviously, this is a replica. I forgot to put that in because it was lost. It is a very good looking crown. So I'm actually going to give it an S tier. I really like this crown. The replica that you can see here is held in the Naha City Museum of History, obviously in Japan. Jordan, same thing, no evidence. Moving on, not going to spend time on this. South Korea. South Korea has a lot of crowns, and most of their crown categories have multiple crowns hidden within them. So let's get through them, just as fast as we can. So the first crown is the crowns of Silla. They were made in the 5th to 7th century. This one that I picked is the Hwangnam Daechung. There's a lot of history behind these that I was not able to find, and summarize here. I'm just gonna say that it is very interesting because it has those cool towers on the side. It is very unique looking, obviously, because it has a lot of influence only from that area of the world. Very unique looking, very cool. I'm gonna give this one an A tier. It is held in the... Oh, wow. I'm not trying on that one. No, I'm not trying. It's held in the National Museum in South Korea. Not trying. Whew. So, again, in South Korea, the crowns of Baekje. Yikes. I want to talk about this one because even though the history is very spotty on this one, I wanted to talk about this one is because I believe these crowns were the inspiration for the Fire Nation crown in Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I think is very cool. And because I'm a very big sucker for Avatar: The Last Airbender, I'm going to give this an S tier because it looks cool, and I assume there's a very interesting history behind it, but I couldn't find a lot about it, so the Gwangju National Museum currently houses these ones. Obviously, it's in South Korea. The last South Korean one is the Crowns of Gaya. Yikes. I am not going to try on that one. So these ones, wow, I don't have anything in my notes about this one. Yeah, no, I have no notes about this one. Okay, so we're gonna have to go off by looks, baby. Okay. I'm going to give it a little bit of leeway on the history part since I didn't do my due diligence, so it's going to get a leeway on that one. It is a very interesting looking crown. It has just a very simple circular thing, which isn't bad. And I do like those, like, they're arches, but they are like parallel with the crown itself. They don't go into it, which gives it that little bit of uniqueness that I like. And there's no red velvet. Thank you. With that being said, I'm going to give it an A tier. I'm going to be nice because I didn't do my due diligence, so it's going to get a pass. With that being said, this is a very long video. There are a lot of crowns left to go. So I'm going to break this into two parts. This is part one. Part two will come out probably in the next upload schedule, but maybe 2 times from now. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.